Am I on? Am I on? Oh, I'm so on, but am I on? Okay. So I have a PowerPoint. However, over the course of this last week, wow, really already? There, who won the bet? Who won the bet? I don't know. Okay. There have been so many things that are applicable to what I was going to talk about that I kind of want to open up with first. And one of those things was I received a text not too long ago, actually just 2 days ago, from a friend who said, I don't think my daughter can be friends with so-and-so. And we're talking about a 4-month-old baby being friends with a practically newborn baby. And I was like, what are you talking about? I thought he was totally joking. And I was like, why? And he said, because he's not going to be vaccinated. In that moment, I just kind of went, holy crap. The bigness of the fear that is infiltrating our society is starting to determine who can be friends with who you can associate with, and what the trajectory of that young person's life will be based on a fear that is so just mind-blowingly ridiculous. So, without getting completely, oh my God, what are you thinking? This is ridiculous. I said, okay, well, why is that a problem? And he's like, well, haven't you heard about this and this and this and the whole whooping cough in the Northwest and da-da-da-da-da, and just rattling off all of these news stories. And he's like, well, I'm just not willing to take that risk. I said, well, if your child's immunized, why are you afraid? Again, I'm just not willing to take that risk. I said, okay. And here I am, and I'm just trying to put myself in his shoes. And I know from just obviously being friends with him that the beginning of their pregnancy was really, really difficult.
Can I bring it like
to the point where they were almost going to lose the
wire?
baby.
Is that okay?
And so my response was that if we were to live our lives based on perceived risk, nobody would ever drive, we probably wouldn't eat food, nobody would have babies, we wouldn't live our lives. And I told him, I said, I remember that the beginning of your pregnancy was really difficult, and you had to make a choice. You had to weigh the benefits with the risk. And I said, with that young girl, that little baby in your arms in this moment, looking in her eyes, soul to soul, I guarantee that the benefit most freaking definitely outweighed the risk. Am I right or am I right? So in that moment, this father's perspective that went from, holy crap, I just really want to protect my baby, went to, yes, I agree, and now I don't know what to do. Because I mentioned that those other parents, the parents that decided not to vaccinate their child, were coming from the same perspective. That what was first in line was to protect their child. But his decision was based out of a fear of something, an event that had occurred, how he remembered it, how he'd embodied it, then determined his belief about something, that then determined his action, that then was going to determine the outcome, not only for him, but for his child. And this is on a small microcosm. This is a nuclear family. And what's happening in the rest of the world? So my talk today is revision to new vision. And in that moment, we were able to rewrite and shift the conversation from to vaccinate or not vaccinate to what's in the best interest of the child. And how do we create a situation, facilitate a future for this child that won't only protect them in a way that a parent naturally would want to, but will also help them to flourish. So, revision. It's an alteration, a modulation, a metamorphosis, a motherfrickin' transformation and reorganization. And that's what happened. And now all over Facebook, the mother's asking questions. I just want information. I don't even know what to do anymore. Thank God. Because confusion is the doorway and is the opening to enlightenment. So, how does your story end in this moment? I want you to close your eyes for just a second. Visualize your future self. Take a look. Based on the people that surround you right now in this life, in this version, in this moment, the things that you do daily, the things that you think, the things that people say to you, and most importantly, what you say to yourself, how does this story end? You can open your eyes. Does it fulfill? Does it light you up? Does it say, oh yeah, oh, let's do this? Or is it, oh, hell no. Not doing that again. Either way, it's eliciting an action from you that, again, is going to influence your belief, which then influences the action, which is then going to introduce a new way or an old way to change the trajectory of that outcome. But as we get to know how a story ends, we always need to know, well, how did it begin? So how did your story begin? And of course, well, what's the version now? Did your story begin with a seed of love, of acceptance, and pure connection? Or is it based on a moment of terror, fear, and disconnection? And it doesn't even have to be you. We can even talk about the birth process. Well, what state was your mother in? And because she was born with all of the eggs that she was going to have for a lifetime, what state was her grandmother in? Yeah, it's heavy. So just take a little inventory. What has shaped you? What sort of past experiences determine your action? I mean, last week, I was up on this stage, literally a week ago, lost the election, and I could have let that experience write what this future would have been right now. But I took it, I reworked it, and I came up with something different. So we're doctors of the nervous system. What does this have to do with us, Jeannie? Everything. Donnie Epstein says that your spine is the switchboard of your reality. Whoa. How we affect the spine, how we affect the nervous system through the spine is going to determine how that information that you that you take in, or the event or the experience that you have, how that is interpreted by the nervous system and the message that is interpreted by the brain, which is then going to determine the action and then the trajectory of that outcome. Even before it reaches the brain, your nervous system has already made a decision based on past experience and reference point of how fast it's going to send that message up to the brain, how it's going to send that message up to the brain, even before you are consciously aware of it. And we have the mighty blessing, for those of you who are doctors of chiropractic and those who are studying to be doctors of chiropractic, to affect that moment with what we do with our hands. That's amazing. And I hope that you understand by what I'm sharing with you the weight of the work that we do to literally change lives. It isn't just something that we say, ooh, chiropractic changed lives. On a scientific, research-based level, we change lives. We change the biochemical, physiological, cellular process, the expression of life. revise, transform, and reorganize, to read between the lines, truly see what's underneath, and empower opportunities to get real. I had another experience this week, and I have permission to share this with you, but one of my patients is really traveling the road of difficulty. And her body is expressing big time. And going through all of these diagnostic tools that we learn in school and to do this and this and that, and I am thankful for it. I am so thankful for it. Because if I didn't have those tools, I wouldn't be able to know what needed to happen next. However, that isn't the determining action of what her outcome will be. Because when I see her, she isn't a diagnosis. And what she's expressing, that isn't who she is. And the symptom is just the message from her body that something seriously needs to change. But when I asked her, and she's sitting here keeled over in pain and is crying, because honestly, this next test that we're waiting for will inevitably determine the trajectory of her life one way or the other. But when I asked her, what is it that you were told growing up? And the things that she told me was that A, she was unworthy, that she was incapable, that she was subpar, and that she didn't know how to do it herself, and that she never would. If that's the story, and if that is the belief that is running the filter for her nervous system to be able to determine what the next action is, where do you think that is going to come from? Is it going to come from a place of fear, or is it going to come from a place of knowing? So in that moment, I made a decision. My job, and I knew it always has been and it always will be, was to hold the certainty of what's possible for her. In 100% certainty in the knowing above, down, inside out, that she is and always will be the pure perfection of life. Even on the days when she just cannot remember. Because no matter what the outcome will be, I will stand in my philosophy and in my knowing that whatever it is that we need to do to affect the nervous system to do what it needs to do, that all will be well. And how she participates with herself, how she gains that information, and the action that she takes, that's a map that she has to create. So what scripts? What scripts have been running your life? What are the things that you tell yourself daily? And what would happen if you rewrote those? What would happen? How would your relationships change, not only with other people, but with yourself? And once that's changed, how do those beliefs change? And once those beliefs have changed, how does your interaction with the world change? And what would the future look like? The outcome of your future is in your hands. For every person here, I ask you, what version of your past in this moment will you remember or want to remember? How do you want to rewrite that, see that differently? How is that going to rewrite this moment? And how is that going to determine the future? We have a grave responsibility. And I hope you feel the weight. And I hope you feel it good. Because the world is waiting for you. And whether you've been in practice for 20 years or in your first quarter, the world is waiting. So I hope you hold the standard, learn what you learn, and with 100% certainty, serve with love. Thank you so much. Woo!